Hi everyone, and welcome back to The Follow Through. My name is Avery the author of Intention into Action, and today I want to talk about a word that sounds harmless, but has probably stolen more dreams, opportunities, and experience than failure ever has. Later. Not no, not never, later. Because most people don't wake up one day and decide they aren't going to pursue the thing that they care about. They don't decide that they're never going to write the book, or start a business, or pursue an opportunity. They just decide that they'll do it later. And I think that's what makes later so dangerous. Because if somebody tells you no, at least it's clear. If something fails, at least you learn something. But later feels harmless. Later is temporary. Later feels responsible. Later feels like you're still planning on doing it. But sometimes later turns into next month, and then next year, and then someday, and eventually you realize that you've spent your entire life, or even just years of your life, postponing things that matter to you. And I think about this a lot because if I'm being honest, there are so many things in my life right now that almost didn't happen. Not because I wasn't capable of doing them, or because the opportunity wasn't there, but because I almost convinced myself to wait. And the scary thing is that the reasons for waiting usually sound pretty reasonable. Nobody says I'm not starting because I'm lazy. Instead, we tell ourselves things like, I need more time, I need more experience, I need to feel more confident or prepared or figure everything out first. Or one that I constantly hear is, I need to wait until things calm down. And on the surface, those reasons sound responsible. The problem is that there will always be another reason. There will always be another busy season or another excuse that sounds logical to you. And if you're not careful, you can spend years preparing for a life you will never actually start living. I think one of the biggest misconceptions people have is that eventually they're going to wake up and feel ready. Like one day they'll suddenly have enough confidence or certainty or motivation or clarity around the thing that they finally want to start. But honestly, that's just not how it works. Because when I look back at the moments that changed my life, almost none of them happened because I felt ready. Most of them happened because I decided to move before I felt ready. Take writing my book, for example. I could have easily said later. I honestly had probably more reasons to wait than reasons to start. I'm in college, I'm busy, I'm working 2 different jobs, I don't have a publishing background at all, and I've never written a book before. There were plenty of people who had more experience than I did, and there's plenty of people who are older than me, more qualified, and if I wanted to, I could have built a really convincing argument for why it wasn't the right time. I could have said I'd do it after graduation, or I got a steady job, or I had more life experience. I could have said I'd do it when I felt more like an author. But if I had done that, there wouldn't be a book. And more importantly, there wouldn't be everything that happened because of the book. Because that's the part that people miss. The cost of saying later isn't just delaying the thing itself, it's delaying everything that it could have created afterwards. The people you would have met, the opportunities you would have found, the skills you could have developed, the confidence you could have built, the version of yourself you would have become. When people think about delaying something, they usually focus on the immediate outcome. But life doesn't really work that way. Life is connected. One thing always is going to lead to another, and another, and another. I talked about this in a previous episode, but I think it's one of the most important things I've learned. The opportunities that you have today often come from opportunities you said yes to months or years ago. Not because you knew exactly where they would lead, but because you started moving, and the movement creates these opportunities. Standing still doesn't. I think this especially is important for people in college because college is full of potential. It's full of people who want to do things, people who want to start companies, create content, write books, and travel. People who want to build careers and have incredible ideas. And some of those people will eventually do those things, but a lot of the people won't. And it's not because they aren't smart enough, it's because they keep postponing the first step. They keep waiting for the perfect time, and the perfect time never is going to arrive because there's no perfect time. There is only right now. And I know that's not always what people want to hear because waiting feels safer. Waiting protects you from failure, and it protects you from embarrassment and rejection, but it also protects you from growth, opportunity, and it protects you from becoming the person you're capable of becoming. And that's a much bigger cost. I even think about this with running too. And if you know more about me outside of this podcast, then you know that I'm training for the Berlin Marathon. And if I'm being completely honest, there are moments where I still think that sounds incredibly crazy. Honestly, every time I say it, I'm like, why am I flying to Germany to run a marathon? And my first marathon, by the way. But to get to the point, there are days where running feels difficult. There are days where training isn't fun, and where I question myself on why am I doing this? And if I want to, I could have easily said, I'll do it later. when I'm in better shape, when running feels easier, and when I'm faster, or feel more prepared. But then I would have missed everything that's happening right now. Not just the marathon, but the process, the discipline, the lessons, the growth, and the realization that I'm capable of more than I thought. And that's what people forget, because the value isn't always in the outcome. A lot of the value comes from who you become on the way there. And you don't get access to that version of yourself if you keep postponing the journey. I think that's why saying later is so dangerous, because it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels harmless and small. But small decisions compound. One postponed opportunity becomes another. One delayed conversation becomes another. One thing you plan to do later becomes 5 things, and then 10, and then an entire list of things that you've been meaning to do for years. And eventually you're going to start carrying all that weight of all those unfinished intentions, all of the things that you wanted to do, and ideas that never became real. And that is exhausting, because deep down, most people know. They know the thing that they've been putting off. They know the conversation that they need to have, or the project that they've been avoiding, or the opportunity that they've been thinking about. They know the next step. The issue isn't knowledge, it's action. And I think that's why this topic matters so much, because the hidden cost of saying later isn't really about productivity. It's about your life. It's about the experience that you will never have, the people you'll never meet, the skills you'll never develop, and the confidence that you'll never build. The version of yourself that never gets the chance to exist. And I think one of the saddest things isn't failure, it's wondering. Wondering what could have happened if you started. Where could that opportunity have led? What could you have done with it? Who you might have become? Because failure teaches you something. Failure gives you information and moves you forward, but wondering can stay with you for years. And I don't want that for myself. I don't want to spend my life wondering. I'd rather try. I'd rather find out. I'd rather take a risk and learn something than spend years imagining what could have happened. And that's really what this episode is coming down to. Not doing everything today, not making some dramatic life change overnight. Just being honest with yourself. What's the thing you've been saying later to? What's the thing that's been sitting in the back of your mind that you've been pushing off? Or you're convinced that you'll just do it eventually? And what is that delay actually costing you? Not next week or next month. Long term. What opportunities are you postponing? What growth are you postponing? And experiences? Because maybe the cost is bigger than you think. Maybe every time you say later, you're not just delaying a task, you're delaying an entirely different future. And that first step isn't as far as you even convinced yourself it is. So that's what I want you to think about this week. Not whether you're ready or you're confident or whether the timing is right, just whether you're willing to stop saying later. Because later sounds small, but over time, it can become an entire life that never happened. And at the end of the day, intention doesn't change anything. Putting it into action does. I'll see you guys next week.